Hi guys, welcome to Windsome Cottage Garden. My name is Hannah and I'm so glad that you decided to join me today. We are finally back in the cottage garden. We've been spending a lot of time in the home garden the last few weeks because we've got a lot of stuff going on there. The last couple of weeks we've been focusing on getting things out of our plant hoard and into the ground before winter sets in. I am in West Michigan. I've got document 2 gardens on this channel. My home garden is in zone 6B and here we are in zone 6A. Subtle differences, but basically both properties are fairly mild because we're close to Lake Michigan, not on Lake Michigan, which gives us a bit of a tempering effect. It means, for example, we recently had our first frost in the home garden earlier this week, and they haven't had one here yet, even though it's about 90 minutes north of the home garden. And that's because here we are within 1 mile as the crow flies to Lake Michigan, and at home we're 3 miles as the crow flies. Both receive that benefit of being so close to the water, which is still fairly warm and is protecting them. But sadly, that runs out at some point in time. And at home, the time has come, but not so much yet here. All that to say, it is fall activity time. In today's video, we're doing one of my favorite fall activities. Actually, no, it is not one of my favorite fall activities. It is one of my least favorite fall chores, but I like the results. So today we are planting bulbs, which means we're going to be getting spring flowers. Now, we have lots of different fall bulbs already planted on this property, but each year we like to add a little bit more. And I have a big box of bulbs in the trunk of my car because they went to my house because I have some, spoiler, I have some that are going into my garden as well. But those I left at home, and these I've already started kind of going through. In a minute, I'm going to show you the bulbs we ordered. We have bought bulbs from Color Blends the last few years. They have really good size, healthy bulbs compared to other places, so we've been very pleased with them. And you can buy larger quantities at a slightly more affordable price. Here's the big box of what I'm tackling today. We have, what I'm going to plant first, we have 100 of their top 40 daffodil bulbs. And I mean, look at how big and chunky they are. This is already like starting to split, which is nice. We have 10 ambassador alliums that are going to go in the back. So we have 300 crocus bulbs, 103 different blends. This one is their white, purple, and white striped ones. Then we have purple and yellow. These are both that 4 to 6 size. And then we have some smaller ones that are called Tommies that I have somewhere else. Now, half of these crocus bulbs are actually going to be going to my house, so I'm going to kind of split those out. And then for up here, we also have 100 snowdrops that we're going to work on. One of the things we've worked hard on the last few years is adding some of those earlier spring varieties. So we have hundreds of snowdrops planted. Unfortunately, some of them were smothered by some building materials, and the building materials are still there. And I don't think they're going to move before winter, so I'm thinking those bulbs are gone. So we're looking to get those snowdrops in elsewhere. We have crocus in lots of places. Now, where we put some of the crocus originally, we didn't realize it's a leaf catchment area. So it's a place where leaves build up. And so with these guys, we're actually going to be putting them in a different area that's still highly visible because those early spring bulbs like crocus and snowdrops are just so life-giving when you see them in the beginning parts of spring, especially here in West Michigan. So they'll start in March, probably towards the end of March, sometimes the beginning of March. And at that time of year, you are just like jonesing for some color, and they hit the spot. So we're adding those in. We always like to amp up our daffodil varieties. 100 seems like a lot, but honestly, it's going to go pretty quickly. I also have a bucket somewhere of some bulbs that we took out of the ground when we were doing our Houtunia remediation. We found a stand that had been there about 10 years. So what had started as probably 5 to 7 bulbs is now like 40. And I need to get those in the ground as well. So one of the challenges of fall bulb planting is remembering where the bulbs you already have are. Because at this time of year, there's no signs of them. So I have a series of photos that I'm going to continually refer to. And I think what we're going to be doing with the daffodils, which we're going to plant first, is really use them to kind of soften some edges of daffodils we have already planted. So my mom gave me some pictures that really show where stuff we have is. I'm going to do my best to soften the edges so it looks a little bit more organic than just this big row. Eventually, like in years, 5-10 years, these are going to be a really big, thick swath that'll just look awesome. But for now, we don't want it to look so rigid. So we're going to get started with the daffodils, smoothing out some that we've already planted. Then we'll see how many we have left to kind of pop around here and there for some cheery spring color. I am going to be using an auger for this. It makes bulb planting so much easier. And I'm also going to be sprinkling a little bit of bulb tone in the hole when we put them in. So the wind is turned on, and I apologize for the audio, but I want to briefly pop in and show you what I'm thinking and what I mean by soften the edges. I will pop the picture on the screen that I've been referring to. The picture is kind of taken from this area. So I know we have a really big swath right here. I'm gonna come in and just soften the front line so it's not so rigid. I'm gonna do like a little group of 5, a little group of 5, a little group of 5, and then I'm gonna do like skip a little bit, 5 here, and then just do some dots because I don't think we have anything in here until I pop around here where I know we tried to plant stuff before, so there's probably a lone daffodil or two, and I'm just gonna do a couple here. So then this whole area will become full of bulbs. So let me get you set up and we'll just go to town and see how far we get. Alrighty, I got a lot of stuff up in the front. I thought I would give you a recap before we shift to a close but slightly different area. I explained what I was doing up here, so keep in mind, according to that picture and with what I know, we have a large swath of daffodils here. We've got a couple, I think, in here, but not as many. But my mom wanted this a little bit more softened, so I think the couple pockets I did will make it a little less regimented. I left a little space, I put a small bit here, and then I did a larger thing right here. This is actually our driveway. So I think if we kind of look this way, you will see this little stand, which we had like one or two in here before, is gonna be really pretty. You'll see it right away, and then you'll kind of be led up with more that way. I then came in and popped a couple over here. I have another picture, but long story short, we have a decent number right here and a smaller amount like here-ish. So I just did a little bit there where there was a noticeable gap, a really small stand here and here. And then I came in right here, and I don't know if this is staying, but I did work around it. And I put a big stand right here. Now those are all daffodils that I'm talking about. I then had a little bit left over, but before I planted them, I wanted to come in with some other earlier varieties, which would inform where the daffodils got planted. So you may have seen me shift the auger that I was using. I went from a 3-inch auger to a 7-inch auger, which allowed me to do smaller bulbs in groups. So I switched. I came in here with some of our earlier varieties. We have a really decent swath of snowdrops right here. And then I popped behind here, and this is all going to be snowdrops. So together, it'll kind of flow. Then, and this is going to be a bit of an experiment. I didn't tell either of my parents I was doing this. I just decided to do it. And usually, so the cottage is our family cottage where they now live. So usually I kind of say, here's what I'm thinking, or me and my dad and or mom talk about it together. And they basically were like, well, go plant where you think looks good. And so that is exactly what I'm doing. And I'm interested to see how this works out. I think the snowdrops are going to be one of the very first things that bloom, which will be really pretty. I then, in front of this rock, did another early variety. You may recall that we had 3 different kinds of crocus. I intended to kind of mix them all up so it was a blend, but one of the varieties I'd forgotten is significantly shorter than the other 2 varieties. So I'm going to mix the 2 that are the similar heights. And then this one, which is a Tommy crocus, I'll pop a picture on the screen. I just decided to do one big swath here because they're a little bit shorter and there's no variety. So I don't think this will look too color blocked because I think they're going to be blooming at different times. I think it's going to be like the snowdrops, then the crocus, then the daffodils. So hopefully it's just a really interesting blend that has continual interest throughout the spring period. So I have 50-ish of the Tommy crocus right here. So it'll be a really impactful little swath of a light purple, I think, crocus in front of this rock, which will be pretty because we have some crocus up there around the trees, and here will be another one. And we are going to come back in a moment and plant some more crocus in that area. So as you're looking and either walking in or walking out, there'll be a spot of color that'll draw your eye, a spot of color that'll draw your eye, and then another one. So it either invites you in or out. This is always one of our goals with planting, is making sure you're thinking about eyeline and how you want to direct it, especially in the spring when there's not a lot to look at. It's going to be very impactful. Then in front of the Tommy crocus, I came back in and planted the remaining daffodils. It's looking like a lot of nothing. A lot of this is looking like a lot of nothing, but I came in and I think there were about 17 bulbs right here. Actually, it's more like this because that's the Tommies. So there's daffodils here, daffodils there. It'll be kind of like a ring, but these daffodils are going to be a lot taller than both the snowdrops and the Tommy crocus. However, by the time they put on any height, these guys will be bloomed out. At least that's what I'm thinking and hoping. Okay, I am going to go finish planting the crocus, which I think are going to go in this area over here. So we planted some stuff up there that has springified beauty. We have decent daffodils in here, and I think even in here where this bucket is, you can see I already counted out my parents' crocus, because again we were splitting the bulbs so that they could be mixed a little bit. I know there is a decent stand about right here. Now I would love to come in around this area. However, we're still working in it a little bit, and I suspect we're going to continue the wall a tiny bit. So what I might do is come in with like a pocket, a pocket, a pocket. So we'll do like 15 or so, and then kind of come in and do pockets throughout this, trying to avoid the daffodil sections. So that'll kind of be here, and won't use it all. And then I'm going to do a really decent amount. I might cut this back just so that I can get in there, but I'm going to do a really big amount right here because you'll see this quite a lot in the early spring. So there'll be a big chunk, and anything remaining I'll just kind of do a couple pockets along this bed. I should mention, you may have seen it in the background, we had some deer visit us. It's getting to be the time of year where deer resistant doesn't mean a lot in terms of plants. Usually we start spraying. I don't think we've started yet, and we are paying the price. As you can see in this area, they came in and ate the ivy. And then they did a lot of walking around. They ate the brunnera, which they're not supposed to eat. So they ate that one quite a bit. They ate this one quite a bit. They left this, they ate some of the ligularia. They left this pretty much alone. They haven't touched any of the hellebores. But then this is very muddy, and they like trampled it to death. There was a brunnera here. They ate this ligularia entirely. And then they came in and really went to town on the ivy. which is a bummer. They also came in and ate the Brunnera right there as well. This would actually be a nice spot for a handful of crocus. I'll probably make this a priority because this is our front door and you see this quite a lot. We have a couple daffodils in here, but not a lot. So maybe like 3 or 4 pockets, maybe 5 of crocus would be pretty. I have everything planted. We got the crocus planted almost exactly where I told you. I ended up only doing 3 really small pockets of crocus in the bump out spot because I put more on the bank than I'd originally intended. So the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I really would love a fuller display because crocus are so small that having a larger number of them would make them more noticeable, especially as they're just establishing themselves and have not yet multiplied. So I would say we put probably about 85 or so in a couple spots around that bank that I talked about. And then we put probably about 15 just on that point in I divided them into 3 different sections. I also just moved to the backyard, as you could tell, and we had 10 ambassador alliums. Now these are those gargantuan alliums that are so pretty. We actually have a decent number of these on either side of the steps, central in the backyard. My mom and I were talking because we love those alliums. They provide such a pop of color that's this like Dr. Seussical whimsical moment, like mid to end of June, that we wanted to add more. They're a bit pricey, allium bulbs, especially these ambassador ones. So we're just going to do it 10 at a time. So this year, the 10 went in still that same bed because we see it a lot, but further along in an area that we could use a tiny bit more spring interest. Previous ambassador bulbs are over on the other side of this Am Magnolia, and I also want to take a moment to appreciate the harvest of memory iris that is reblooming and looking just so beautiful right now. Especially as things are beginning to peter out in this area. It's a bright little beacon. And right next to this bright little beacon, I put 3 of the ambassador allium right up there. They're going to get about 4 feet tall, but then they disappear completely by July. So I think these will be up in a really pretty pop of color around the time the iris and the peony are blooming. We'll need to work a little bit on late summer interest in this area, though we did plant some phlox earlier this year. I think that will just be beautiful. And then I also wanted to do the pocket up there and continue it in this area. Now we do have a bright red peony, which actually is always the first one we have that blooms. So this will be probably more like May. And I tucked 1, 2, 3, and then I kind of kept on going. 4, I think. Maybe 4, 5, 6 right here, and then 7. So they will spread themselves out while these are all super little and be really pretty spring interest, and they'll get cut back about the time that these guys take off. So I think that is going to do it for this video. The next video you see, we will still be in this garden, but we're going to be working down by the vegetable garden, adding some plants that we've had in our plant hoard for quite some time. And I'm really excited to get them in the ground. We'll probably do one more video here with some other plant hoard plants before heading back to the home garden and chipping away at the plant hoard we have there. If you like this video, please make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Share this with your friends or anyone you think might be interested in it, because you won't want to miss a thing. I really appreciate you joining me today, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.